You are the magic. And you always have been.
I am so excited to introduce you to one of my dear friends, Erin Forward. She is an SLP, a feeding therapist, and an educator who is known for her relational, neurodiversity-affirming approach to feeding and communication. She is the founder of Nourishing Connection and the host of Rooted in Connection podcast, where she explores trauma-informed care, IR floor time, and the power of relationships in child development. She also mentors clinicians and teaches internationally on ethical, connection-based feeding therapy practices. And she happens to be one of my dear friends. So welcome, Erin.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I also just love that in podcasting, it's just an excuse to talk with some of your favorite people for a very uninterrupted space of time.
Yes. Yeah. And just getting to share all the people that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Okay. Well, let's start off talking about some of the really cool things that you have achieved in the last year. Your life has changed a lot. You've made
Mm-hmm.
some really bold moves. I'm very proud of you for that. So, what are 2 or 3 things that you are most proud of that you have achieved? And can be this year or whenever.
I was thinking a lot about this question, and I will say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on Sarah's podcast, but you definitely helped me through a lot of these decisions. I shared something the other day, and I remember I sat down with you because, full disclosure, I got technically let go from working at a clinic. The clinic was then closing. It was a little more dramatic than it needed to be, and I was on the way to Florida with my family, and I texted Sarah and was like, "Can I just be with you for a little bit? Can I pop by?" And you've always said you'll never fire yourself. You can always bet on yourself. And it was interesting because my whole life, I'd always been the person that was taking care of other people, but yeah, I still doubted myself in so many ways. And so that always stuck with me. And I had already had plans. I've always wanted to open my own practice. I tend to be somebody who likes to think outside the box. And so I was like, now I have to do it. I mean, I could do, you said to me, you're like, if the door opens and you don't step in, the door will open again later. But if the door is opening, you should step in. And so I completely on my own opened up my own practice. I filled my caseload in a month and a half, which was kind of wild. I think when I thinking about what I'm proud of, I wouldn't even say in that moment it was opening up my own practice, but it was in the process of opening up my own practice, realizing the relationships that I had built and the people that were willing to support me and the pride in being willing to accept the help. Because I think in the past, I didn't want to be a burden to people. I didn't believe that I deserved the help that they were giving me. I felt like working with my therapist on learning that love doesn't have to be earned and people can just love you for you. And so that process was very emotional for me when there were so many people that were willing to sit with me for an hour about how they open their practice or were sending me kids. And I was like, you don't know me. And they were like, we do. And you deserve this. And so that was something that I still am processing through the doors that are opening and how I'm able to do all of this on my own. And when I say on my own, I mean with a village, but on my own on paper.
Mhm.
And that has been huge. And with that and that freedom has come so many other things. And I think I'm also just really proud of being more myself and putting myself more out there and being okay with not everybody understanding because I want to be understood and I want to understand everybody else. But I have to recognize that not everybody is going to know why you do what you do. And that's okay. And so last year was definitely a lot of shedding of a lot of things. And that's really, really hard. But I, for the first time in my life, finally like asked myself what I want. I used to call everybody and be like, what decision should I make? And now I'm like, this is my life. And
Mhm.
that's definitely a new thing for me.
Isn't that the most beautiful thing? Entrepreneurship and owning your business is really cool from a professional standpoint, but the level of growth that it requires from you, and then getting to see yourself step up to the plate, step up to the challenge, and really truly grow in so many different ways. But I think self trust is
Mhm.
the greatest reward of it all because for me, the thing that I have learned to trust myself with is like we have 100% success rate of figuring it the fuck out. And it doesn't matter what it is, like I'm going to figure it out. And I would never have like the level of trust in myself that I do if it weren't for being a business owner. And I feel like you have proven to yourself over and over and over in the last year that I'm going to figure it out. And I can trust myself to get us through. I know that I'm going to find the answers or I'm going to find someone who has the answers and know what the next step is.
Mhm.
So I think that is beautiful. And I'm so proud of you because it's also not easy. I feel like people look at owning your own business and they're like, oh, must be nice. You know, your whatever is a tax write off and you get to have your business meetings at the beach and
Mhm.
but they don't see the 3 a.m. panic and doubt and consideration of burning it all down over and over and over.
Mhm.
It it's not the easy road. If it was the easy road, everyone would be on it. So,
Right. Right. And I also used to be somebody who, when I vented to somebody or complained to them about something or asked their advice, I now felt like I owed them, if I did something wrong or I messed up, I owed something to them too, because they told me something to do. And now it's like, you know, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And interestingly, my family was not concerned. Like, I was like, I can somebody be a little more worried about me because I know they'll be fine, but I think we should this is not smooth sailing. Like, this is not there's so much I have to learn and so much that they don't teach you, and you and I really I mean, I don't have a partner or somebody and there's challenges and benefits that come with everything.
right.
Getting home at night with my cat and laying my head down on my pillow, I don't have somebody right there to bounce ideas off of or somebody that financially can help if I have a bad month. There's none of that. I have to do all of this for me and I'm very lucky to have a lot of support from my family, but I mean, I this is all but on my own
Yeah.
and it's it's the hardest and best thing I've done.
Mhm. Yeah. That it's the hardest and the best thing that I've done. That is it sums it up. But yeah, I think because you don't have a partner at home waiting for you and also needing your time, you have more time to spend on your business, and that's beautiful. But you also don't have someone who is going to pay your bills if your business can't. And that's a lot to carry sometimes. And I don't know if you plan on hiring or having anyone on your team. But then whenever those people start depending on you and you realize I'm not just responsible for food on my table, I'm responsible for food on that table and that table and that table of people that I love and
Yeah.
have trusted me. And it's all on your shoulders. And that's
Yeah.
a lot to carry.
And even separate from the financial, the reputation piece, like, this is now I'm putting myself out there with my business, and if I do something wrong, that's on me, and that's on my reputation, that's on so that also was very hard for me because I'm not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, and as a speech therapist, I'm not the right therapist for everybody, and so navigating the dynamics of finding your people, but also recognizing that there are gonna be some people that you're not for and not letting because I had moments where I wasn't the right fit for a family and I did not handle it very well. Like the spiral of no, they're gonna say this to this person and this person's gonna think badly of me. And then when you recognize that most people are focused more on themselves and that's not quite as much to worry about. But that also I think was a big shift for me where it's I'm not hiding behind a clinic.
Yeah.
This isn't I can't blame it on anybody else. It's literally me.
You the boss.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we'll have an issue come up and I'm like, damn it. I wish I could send it to my boss and let them handle it, but
Mhm.
it's you now.
Yep.
Isn't that the most beautiful, freeing feeling to realize I'm not for everyone and I'm okay with that? And it's actually a beautiful thing whenever I realize that I'm not a good fit for someone because then I can move on to someone that I am a good fit for.
Yeah, because I've found the families and the people that really get me, and I think being on social media too, the comparison game is just a constant. And the more that you recognize who you are and who you're for and what you bring, the less triggering it can be to see somebody doing something and be like, wait, I wanted to do that, or am I not doing enough? I mean, you and I have had that conversation all the time where I recognize I'm somebody who goes really deep into things. And so I don't like to put something out until I feel like it's been fully developed. Granted, I've been better about it doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be good enough. But if someone's coming to me for information or mentorship or therapy, they want to go deep. And that's something I've learned, and that's just a part of who I am. And finding those things and learning that and being able to own that and say that, even with my families, they know there's a chance I'm 5 minutes late. They know. They know, and I try my best, but they get it. And it's not because I'm unprofessional, it's because I do home health and I have ADHD. And so they're okay with it because they know I'm going to go out of my way to do everything else for them. I promise I try to be on time to every session. It doesn't always happen. And that used to be something I was so shameful of. I had felt so much shame. And I think some people think, oh, you're flippant about it or you don't care. It's like, no, 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 no. Me getting out of the door. Oh, I care so much. I care a lot.
Yeah. No, I feel you there. I'm either 5 minutes late or I'm 30 minutes early because I'm scared I'm going to be 5 minutes late. And whenever you're doing home visits, you can't work and actually.
Control so much.
Yeah. 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 What is your other big achievement that you're most proud of?
I was trying to think of that because I feel like so much has happened this year and I started a new podcast. I think if I'm being completely honest, something I'm the most proud of this year is walking away from things that don't serve me anymore. It's really hard when you have grown because I think change, people will be like, "You've changed." It's like, "Well, I'm supposed to."
Yeah.
But when
That's
you
the point.
grow and you fall into what the path is leading you, you follow your passions, you follow where you feel the strongest, and when that happens, there are going to be people in your life who liked you better before and liked who you were before for whatever reason that is. And I'm not going to make any judgments or presumptions on why that is. But in order for me to fully step into what's next for me, there were things I had to walk away from. And it was really hard. And it all happened. Sarah knows this. It all happened within a week time frame of me leaving a job, deciding I'm going to start a practice, leaving a project I had been with for 8 years, and separating from a relationship and a partnership that had been so important. And I still look back at being so important and being so critical and having so much love and respect and gratitude for what that gave me. But I, throughout my life, I think have been somebody who put everybody else first and wanted to make sure everybody else was okay before me and really wanted to be understood. And so being misunderstood was really hard. And there comes a point sometimes where you have to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. And this isn't where I need to be. And you don't get to control the narrative of the other people. And that was really hard for me because it was like, I don't get to control how they feel about it. I don't get to control anything else, but what I get to do is step forward with integrity and my what I need to do and just kind of look forward in that way. And that was one of the hardest things
Yeah.
I've done. And I'm really, really proud of the way that I've handled it and how I've shown up and how I've been able to work through that with the help of therapy because I never thought I would be able to. I was worried that it was gonna crush me. I was worried that that was kind of gonna be the end, and people would have a lot of opinions and thoughts on it, and it's been okay.
I love I mean, I don't love it for you in the moment, but I love whenever we ask for growth and we ask for expansion and we ask for guidance. And then sometimes it shows up so swiftly all at once. And it's not just your professional life, it's your personal life, it's everything. And it's really cool because everything gets a glow up all at the same time, but it's also, it doesn't feel good in the moment. And it can feel like the whole world is crumbling around you. But I think you did such an amazing job of navigating that because, I mean, you had the choice to stay stuck or take the next step, take the bet on yourself in
Mhm.
many ways. And you took it. And I 1000% always, always, always believe that the best bet that you can make is the one on yourself. And it's been really cool to see you come out of the cocoon too, you know?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you because you were behind the scenes very supportive, and I was a hot mess, not knowing what to do. I mean, I would sit myself at a coffee shop for 8 hours and just prep marketing materials, come up with ideas, reach out to people, send emails. And I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. I had to invest. It was a wild experience. Meanwhile, on social media, I'm like, "This is so fun. I have coffee in my computer, and look how nice it is outside." But I'm terrified, and I think the other thing too is that when you bet on yourself and what you want, the people that want that for you will continue and come with you, and the people that don't want that for you will probably stay in that other period of your life, and that is okay.
Yeah.
I also am somebody who recognizes that somebody can be a part of your life for a season, and that can still be really grateful. I talk with families all the time about when they're at a practice and they're really loyal to it and it changes. I'm like, you can love what they gave to your child. You can love everything in that part of your life, and it could have changed, and you can move on for what's best for you and your child. And all of those things can be true at the same time, which is really hard to process, especially when you're in the thick of it. But to be able to also to see what I could do, I was like, "Okay, we're gonna be okay." Do I want to be in charge of everything myself forever? I don't know. But right now I am, and it also allows me to say yes to things I want to say yes to, like, when opportunities come up, I've been able to be like, "What where could I shift? Is this something I want? Is this not something I want?" I've learned they don't have to say yes to everything, and that was also a hard thing. At first, when you're starting out, you're like, "Well, I can't say no. This is an opportunity." And now I've been more intentional about what is important to me and what what fuels what I want, not necessarily what I think the next step should be, because there's so much information out there of people's paths, which is so cool. But then
Uh-huh.
it's also stopping yourself and being like, do I want to do that? Is that for me, or is that just something I could do?
Yeah. One of my most favorite things that I have learned through owning a business and getting good, I feel like we've always been good, but getting really good at the work that we're doing is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you're capable of anything that you decide that you want to do. But just because you can doesn't mean that that's what you should do. I want to go back to talking about seasons. Saw I don't even know where this was, but I saw somebody talking about how you only have a select few relationships that will live more than about a 7-year time span. And every 7 years or so, we kind of we can see those relationships shift. And I grew up in the same house from kindergarten through 12th grade. I went to school with the same 140 people, and like 97% of us were there, kindergarten through 12th grade. My parents never got divorced. I had never experienced any significant loss for the first 18 years of my life. So I really, really struggled with the concept of things changing. Now, not that I want people to leave my story, but when that happens, if we have a client that decides not to renew or a client that I decide is no longer a good fit, I know it's because we're making room for the next phase, the next iteration. But I think whenever it comes to personal life and those relationships, it's really hard because it's easy to go, okay, well, is this my fault? Did I hurt them? The way that they're going to remember me, am I proud of that? Do I feel good about that? Is that in integrity with my values and who I am? And there's just a lot more personal ownership, I feel like, in those relationships whenever you are close with people. And I think that it all of those questions can be a yes, and it still be the time for you to move into a new cycle.
Mhm.
And I had never heard that until recently about the 7-year cycle. And I started thinking about relationships and some of my friendships that kind of ended without explanation, sometimes on my part and sometimes on the other person's part. And it allows you to remove yourself from it a little bit and say, okay, maybe it was just the end of that season and that's okay.
Mhm.
And it doesn't
Mhm.
mean anything about me or mean anything about them, but it was just the end of the season.
Yeah. And we're changing more than the generations before us in regard to our environments and our spaces and the fact that we're women that can live on our own and have our own businesses. This is new dynamics. And I think the friendships and the relationships that have lasted through a lot of transitions, we've had a lot of conversations. My best friend Sam we were in grad school. We didn't have the same program, but we lived together in grad school. And then she moved further away from me, and then she ended up coming back and being my boss, and then I left and went somewhere else, and then I moved back to South Carolina, and so we had very intentional conversations about what our relationship and what our friendship looked like, and she's the first person to call me out and say, "Hey, Erin, this thing upset me or this thing bothered me," and there's this safety of we're doing this to support each other in the relationship, and I've had relationships before where I've expressed my needs, and it's been met with it's not me, it's you. You need to go on medication. You don't have kids, so your life isn't as hard. And I've heard that from different people. And I took it for a while and was like, this is okay. They're right. And then I sat and I was like, there was a moment I had a friend, my friend Crystal looked at me and she was like, do not allow a human to speak to you like that. And I was like, she goes, would you allow anybody to speak to anybody you love like that? And I was like, no. And I started in therapy, I also started trying to separate myself, looking at myself as a friend.
Hmm.
So, like, what can I do to protect her? And doing parts work too of looking at my younger child and what would she need and what would she see? And that was also really helpful because growing up in a family where my parents split up when I was 10. I mean, they're wonderful, but I was the oldest and I wanted to make sure that everybody was okay. I just wanted to be okay. I didn't want my feelings to upset anybody else. And so I didn't speak up about how I felt ever. And so that's been a challenge for me to sit here and say that this upset me to somebody else because it used to be easier. Well, if I just hurt, then I can deal with it. But
Right.
if I tell them they hurt me, then I'm hurting twice because I'm also an empath. So I would just leave it.
Yeah.
But it didn't help. It wasn't fair to them and that relationship either. They didn't know that they hurt me. And so it kept happening, but that wasn't their fault.
Right. Yeah. Ugh, so much growth.
We're trying. We're
Um,
trying.
so thinking about the different parts of you, what
Mhm.
are I want to get into your magic. What are some of the parts of you that have allowed you to make this growth, to experience this growth that maybe you were hesitant to lean into or you had been told were too much or not enough or all of the lies that we're told about the parts of ourselves that we should hide away?
That's a great question. And I always so I can't remember how many years ago it was, but my dad found these home videos And he turned them into, it was years ago because it went from VHS to CD, but we would watch this video of me when I had to have been like 3 or 4, and I was just, like, so chatty, so outgoing, so bubbly, and I looked at her and I was like, "She went away for a while." Like, I feel like I lost her, and I now know I have ADHD and OCD, and so it does make a lot of sense, the masking of my big feelings and being so aware of everything around me and how everybody else was feeling, and I was very shy in grade school up until college. I was very insecure. I remember just, and I don't say this to be but I remember just wanting to not be seen. Like, if people didn't notice, then I couldn't cause any problems, and that was very much kind of, but I had certain people and teachers that, like, saw things in me, and that was always really helpful. But when I went to college, I started to make friends who I think saw things in me, and I started to feel more comfortable, and when you're in college, you're around people all the time, so I think there's also this piece of I couldn't mask
Right.
as much because I'm living with people, and I started to realize that those big feelings weren't a bad thing. I think being an empath and somebody who feels around me, I can walk into a room. I know you talk about this. I mean, I can walk into a room and feel the energy, feel if it's off, feel, and that can be a lot to carry on your shoulders because I use the example of if I would rather go to a movie that somebody else picked out and I know that they're going to enjoy because if I pick it out, even if I'm enjoying it, if they're not, I don't enjoy it anymore.
Joy.
It's not fun. And so it it was interesting as I started to unmask and be like, "Oh, I do have ADHD." I saw the strengths more, like, I think they were all hidden because I was focused so much on doing the right thing and being good in school and whatever, and so the more I started to let myself be me, the more I saw, "Oh, I have these big feelings. Oh, I am really creative. I can think of 5 different outcomes and 1 step ahead while also thinking 20 steps ahead." And I really, really care about the people around me. I think I want to connect so badly and I want to be so understood, and I think because that's a core wound of mine, I work so hard to understand everybody else, and that's so for me, when somebody doesn't try to understand me, that's really, really hard and it can feel like abandonment.
Yeah.
I as I started to let those come out, it was more of a who am I and what's authentic to me, and that was there's a lot of grief that comes with that too, of
Mhm.
like, wait a second, I hid a lot of her, and now I'm having to also relook at relationships of was this an authentic relationship? Was this not? And you try not to go too deep into that, but when you start to feel authentic and let yourself be, it's both terrifying and the best thing. It can't come one without the other, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think whenever you start to take the mask off and let yourself be seen for who you really are, sometimes people who have been in your life have feelings about that. And
Mhm.
I feel like even me doing this show, I'm like, I know that there are people who are going to listen to this and they know a past version of me and they're going to have things to say and they can say whatever the fuck they want.
Mhm. Yeah.
And but it took me a long time, a long, long time to get to the point where I can say, you can say whatever the fuck you want and I don't care because I am who I am. And I have never been more authentic to who I am at my core.
Yeah.
And that is so, I was trying to explain this feeling to my therapist the other day. You know, whenever you're playing softball and you're fully grounded, both feet. You're ready. You're leaning in a little bit. You feel so solid that someone could run up and try and tackle you and you're not going to fall over. Like
Mhm.
that is the level of stability that I feel in myself now because I'm finally letting myself fully be seen. And I feel like that is
Mhm.
what happens whenever you stop wearing the mask. But
Yeah.
it
People have
also
a
Yeah.
And it opens you up to the criticism from people who benefited from when you were masking and when you were and my self-worth was so based off of other people's perception of me. So I was always looking for clues of like how they perceived me. And when you are who you are and you make decisions based off of what you feel is right in that moment, you might upset someone, you might have a rupture in a relationship, but at least I can go in saying, I did this because I wanted to, not because I misread somebody else's cues or thought they wanted me to do this or thought this. And that's really free and really, um, I'm really proud of that because it is new. I mean, most of the decisions I made work wise were based off of pooling everybody in my life. Calling them, seeing, and then somebody would say something that wasn't what I was in line with, and I'm like, "Oh, no, I have to rethink this." And now when I decided to move to Charleston and I started to start my practice, it was very I wanna do this. And then if it doesn't work, it also doesn't work, but also I'll be fine, and I think that was part of it. I had so many people in my life that were worried, I'm like, "I'm not."
Yeah. Because I trust myself.
Mhm.
Because I always figure it out. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So with being ADHD, I know we have lots of big feelings. We have lots of empathy. We can read a room. What are some other things that you have found to be strengths that you previously felt like you needed to hide?
I'm somebody so I feel like I'm a lot more open about my ADHD than my OCD. I think ADHD is a little more it's still very misunderstood, but I feel like I've found a community, and I also feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD.
Literally all of
So
us.
I found it. Um, my OCD is something that I used to feel way more shame for. It's very misunderstood. I'm definitely not the person with OCD who my space is incredibly clean. I didn't get that version of it. I got this social OCD where I ruminate and replay things over and over and over in my head. But what I find that does is it really allows me to counsel really, really well, connect with families. I think this is a podcast where we toot our own horn, so I'm not gonna do the whole
No,
let's
no,
in
no.
it.
I say
Um,
brag on you like your mama would.
yeah. But I feel like I can connect very quickly and very easily with a lot of people and put myself in their position and kind of hear the things that they're not saying out loud. Even my medically complex kids, sometimes I feel like I can hear them, which may sound strange, but I think I can. And so because I spent so much time and I'm so hyper vigilant on noticing everything, I can pick up really quickly on rupture with a child and a caregiver, and I can pick up really quickly on a caregiver's shift in demeanor, and I can bring meaning to it, and I can help them recognize it, and I can also do it in a way that isn't judgmental, and because I really try hard not to judge because I know that our decisions and our actions come from our history, and so it I really, really and I want to continue to build a lot of caregiver coaching programming because I love facilitating that relationship and attunement and attachment, and I love very subtly communicating to the caregiver what that child is communicating without it being, "I'm telling you to do this thing," or "I'm putting judgment on you," and so, because my brain moves so fast, when it might take other people an extra second to think of what to say, if something comes out of my mouth, I've probably played 5 possible options in my head and then decided on the best one, but you wouldn't know because I am also from New York and I talk so fast. So, that's been really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that connection piece and I always wonder about people who are not empaths. I'm like, so what runs through your brain all day? Because
Mhm.
and especially in social settings. I live alone, I work from home. Yesterday I did not leave my house at all, and those are my favorite days. But whenever I'm in a social setting, I just wonder like what other people's brains are doing because mine is picking up on everyone's energy, picking up on the relationship dynamics that I'm seeing and feeling from people and just processing all of this. And I always wonder like what do other people's brains do? But then you're able to take that information that you're picking up and that communication that is not being said. There's no words exchanged, but everything is said.
Mhm.
And you're able to help people using that. And I think that is truly, especially in the work that you're doing and with the population that you serve, so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was actually was interesting. Nana's was my favorite human in the whole world. And Sarah knows this, but when I was going through the process of starting my own business, I was like, um, kind of looking for signs, kind of being annoying. Like, okay, Nana, I was on the beach. I was like, okay, Nana, send me a dolphin or something. And I start to leave the beach, and this monarch butterfly in the middle of the beach flies right in front of me. And I was like, okay, okay, I see it. Okay. And then right before I step off the sand, two of them fly by and one hits me. And I was like, she recruited Papa. And she's like, listen to me. It is going, and monarch butterflies would change and evolution. And when my Nana got AML when my final semester of grad school, and they gave her 5 months to live. And I had a couple months left break in the summer before I started working. And I went home and essentially took care of her because she was my person. And I remember there were a lot of really hard decisions. Like I went with her to appointments and they wanted her to do this trial. And I was like, she's not doing this. This is not what she would want. And my uncle reached out, him and I were talking after that, and he's like, I get why you do what you do. He's like, I understand how you are really, really good at this. And I think in the field that we're in and being a speech pathologist, I have the best job and I love what I do and I connect with people and I see so much joy every day, but I don't get to share it
Yeah.
because I protect my, HIPAA. Like I can't. But some family, but it's hard. I think people don't realize it when they don't see it. And I would come home sometimes when I live with my aunt and uncle, and he'd be, "Why are you so tired?" I mean, it's this emotion. There's so much that you're giving, but I love it so much. And it's really cool when you find the thing that you're like, oh, this is what I'm and so many people don't have that.
Yeah. That's another thing that I wonder about. Like, I think that you're able to find it because you give yourself room to learn yourself, to
Hmm.
really like ask the question of what is it that I want? What is it that my soul is here to do? And I just think about people who are walking through life asleep and are not sitting with those questions. And it's like, how are you making decisions? How are you like fucking wake up?
And I think, yeah, I also reckon this was something I talked about another podcast too. When you grow and you start to really understand yourself, sometimes you become a mirror for other people of things they haven't done and they aren't willing to face. And that's also something I've learned is that when you step into a higher frequency, some people are like, I don't want to be there. Like, I don't want to deal with my stuff. I don't
Uh-huh.
wanna ask those questions. I don't wanna work through it, and they have to push you away. They can't meet you there, and thankfully, I have a lot of people in my life who always saw me there, and so it wasn't they're like, "Yeah, we know this about you." And then there were people that were like, "No." So it's just but you can't control that when you dive into that, some people they don't wanna see it, they don't wanna deal with it.
It reminds me of hearing a really high pitched sound. It can be uncomfortable for people.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if there are I'm assuming everyone listening is interested in leading a more authentic life, being more of themselves, showing more of their magic and owning that. So, if there is any advice that you have for people going through that process of really leaning in, what would that be?
I think what I've learned is to be more in my body. So much of what we're talking about is these higher level, I'm starting a business. I have to intellectualize all of that. But when it comes to finding what I started doing was taking a check with myself to how I felt in certain moments and how my body felt. And when you listen to the spaces and the things that your body feels good, that can give you information. And whether it's with the work that you're doing or just the people that you're around. I started checking myself, and when I didn't feel good after I left something or I didn't feel good after I did something, I would think about it and be like, what about that didn't serve me? And it didn't always have to have an explanation. Like I felt like everything had to have an explanation. I'm doing this because of this. I don't want to be friends with this person because of this. And I've gotten to the point where if my body is telling me something doesn't feel good, I have to check in with that and I have to listen to that. And in the job I'm doing now, when I'm driving my car in home health, like I'm so happy. Or when I sat down to write for the book I want to write, like I felt so much joy. And taxes, admin, that type of stuff, not my favorite. But for the most part, check in with your body in spaces and when you make decisions and don't also feel like you have to give an explanation. Sometimes something feels good and you feel pulled to it, and that higher tuning into that higher energy can be so much more valuable than even being able to intellectualize why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's enough. You don't have to have a tangible, logical explanation. Sometimes it's just the fucking vibe ain't right and I'm not doing it. And every single time I have gone against that feeling, I have regretted it. Whether it's taking on a client that I know is a shit show or letting other people into my circle, into my orbit, you feel that apprehension. And every time I have gone against it, and just done it anyway or signed the client anyway, I've regretted it every single time. And so the vibe is
The
enough.
vibe.
It really is.
Amen.
Well, I think that is the perfect place to leave us. Thank you so, so much. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Just thank you. I think I always talk about Sarah in the way of you connect people and when someone comes into your orbit for the right reasons. I have met so many people through Sarah. I've met so many people through you because you lift people up and just have a capacity and an ability to help people feel seen, whether you realize it or not. Like the community that you've built of women that are just confident and comfortable and taking chances on themselves. And then we all also connect and support each other, like the ripple effect that you have. And this podcast is just a perfect culmination of that, is just very, very cool. And I don't say that lightly, but it's true. And so thank you for everything, because truly I cried on your couch and cuddled your dogs, and you like lifted me up, got me some margaritas and tacos, and we're gonna figure, you literally were like, let's make a business plan, we're doing this. And to have people in your life that are willing to do that is unmatched. So I appreciate you. Love you.
I love you so much. I'm so, so proud of you. Last thing, if people are listening and they want to know more about you and the work that you are doing, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram, Erin Forward SLP. I have erinforwardslp.com as my website. And I also have a podcast, Rooted in Connection, that's on Instagram. I interview a lot of caregivers and clinicians and doctors about like the relationship behind what we do. So that's been really, really cool and just fun to talk to people.
Awesome. Well, I will link all of that in the description. And just thank you so, so much. This was wonderful. And just, I could not think of a better fit for the whole theme of the show. And I'm just so proud of you for leaning into your magic.
Thank you.
All right, fam, you know what to do. Rate the show, send to a friend, and make sure you subscribe and follow so you never miss the magic. See you next week.